you. I just wanted to provide the board an update on the work that we've been doing with our curriculum documents. The goal is to really ensure that they're robust for our staff, and it's easily accessible and current, and we're incorporating our primary instructional resources that have been adopted. So just wanted to do a quick overview. Um, so one of our goals for the department this year has been that we are focusing on developing and supporting implementation of a guaranteed and viable pre-K-12 curriculum. And just to define what a guaranteed and viable curriculum is, first of all, it does tie very strongly to student achievement levels in our schools. It assures that specific content is taught across all content areas and specific grade levels, so it ensures that alignment and kind of moves away from the teacher lottery that all teachers are expected to do this and perform at high levels with this. It's also ensuring that when we look at how we're delivering it in the setting, that we are establishing instructional times within the classroom so that we can deliver a robust curriculum, and then it creates a common understanding across the board for all pre-K staff. Just to want to give you an idea of what would be included in our documents is that it has, of course, scope and sequences, which tells us what we're teaching, a kind of a timeline throughout the year, kind of a year at a glance for all our core subjects and our elective courses. There are unit planning guides that we are developing that, of course, includes our Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, research-based instructional strategies to teach those skills, and just best practices for high rigor and instruction in our classrooms. Incorporation of the primary instructional resources. So, for example, the science adoption. We will be building those that was adopted for our new standards. That will be incorporated and aligned within these unit guides. Assessment resources that align with our balanced assessment plan, and then strategies and resources for small group instruction, for intervention, enrichment, and extension. So how do we build these? A lot of this work is done here in the department and led by our directors and coordinators. Of course, we use the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, those adopted primary instructional resources. There is a new resource that we are going to be accessing that is called the TEX resource system that will be time-saving in some aspects. We have done some curriculum writing, but this is a resource that our department can use so that they can pull in some of those components that we're needing to build some of these courses and electives that are not as robust. There are options with that management system that you can access it where all teachers could access it. We're going to use it as an internal resource to build our own system. Of course, we use curriculum writers, and then our teacher vertical teams play a part in this as well, too. So that's just kind of one of an update on where we are with our curriculum resource system. And I hope to be bringing some examples to you in the future.
Yeah, examples would be great in the future. That'd be awesome to help us understand more of that. So,
okay.
Any other questions for Dr. Tinsley? All right. Item 7 is senior project presentation.
Okay. We're very excited about this. And these folks right here, I'm going to ask to go over to the podium over there because they're going to be assisting with this presentation. Part of our Lovejoy 2030 plan was to take a look at our senior project so that it really aligned to what we had intended in our graduate profile. And in recent years, especially after COVID, there were some changes to it. And so part of the work of the Lovejoy 2030 committee, this is what was brought forth, that they would like the administration to take a look at that. So what we did, we formed a committee this year that started at the beginning of the year. The names are here. So it was made up of district administrators, campus administrators, teachers at the high school. So I'm going to hand this over to Michelle Riddle and Dr. Zambezi and David Mueller, who is one of our history teachers at the high school, and then Mary Mullen has played a major role in this as well, too.
Good morning. I wanted to give you a little bit of background. My name is Michelle Riddle. This is my 16th year in the district, and 8 of those years I served project began with the class of 2010, and that was a place for them to showcase where they pursued a passion or a particular interest. And when the senior project began, there was an in-person presentation of what they learned and how they went through the process. But then in the spring of 2020, they moved to a digital submission, and that's when things kind of got a little askew as far as the intent of the senior project. And so then, like Dr. Tinsley said, in the spring of 2022, the Lovejoy 2030 Strategic Planning Committee really asked that committee to look at the senior project. And a few other things that came out in the strategic planning was a focus on future ready skills. And a lot of the business members and community members that were there asked for specific communication skills and technology skills and things like that that we could have our graduates have by the time they graduated. So we really thought we could marry those two ideas and incorporate some of those into the senior project. So then this year, we sought feedback from the community, and we got a lot of submissions. Mr. Mueller was talking about how he had read through all of those very recently and got a lot of really great ideas and where they wanted to see the senior project go. So we got that, and then we really began as a committee to reimagine the senior project. So we've come to the spring and summer of 2024, and that's where we will begin planning, implementation, and student and teacher support. And then the fall, we will do our professional development. The implementation will begin with the class of 2026 full implementation, and then there will be a little bit of a hybrid model for the class of 2025, just because they won't have had a few of the steps starting with their freshman year. So these were the strategic planning targets and strategies that we talked about. And then really the senior project is a culminating initiative that assesses and demonstrates their knowledge that they've acquired over the years in preparation for graduation. And we really want to send them off well prepared and embodying that graduate profile. And it supports writing, speaking, and all of the knowledge and problem solving and things like that that we want them to have. So the revision of the senior project includes intentional explicit instruction. And that's one thing that we felt like was missing before, was that they were kind of handed this project and said, here you go. And there wasn't any instruction on how to get that done. So it's really that future ready skills, like communication, technology, some of those things that the business members really stressed that they were wanting to see in graduates. And then it also beefs up the community service and leadership aspect of the senior project, and you'll see that in just a minute. And then it also continues that pursuit of a passion or interest. So what it was before, it was a standalone project done in by the end of your senior year. And sometimes it was a little bit too late as far as what they wanted to learn more about that. And maybe they wanted to talk to colleges about, look what I've done. It did allow students to pursue a passion or interest, and all of the learning was student directed.
So what the senior project is now is a 4-year progression of learning. So it's no longer only within senior year. It now actually starts freshman year, and it builds upon each other, starting very structured and ending with much more responsibility being on the seniors, allowing them to put more of their passions into their projects and their resumes and things that they're developing by their junior and senior years. There's a heavy focus on building a portfolio that is documenting skills, focusing on 4 elements. So we have college and career readiness, research capabilities, service and leadership, and digital readiness. We have broken those down for each grade level so that from freshman to senior year, they build upon each other and really are embedded into the school day, which I'm going to talk about next. So for our 9th to 12th grade senior project that we've been developing, the most important part of this was to make sure that we're not overburdening our teachers, and that we're respecting students' time with all of the things that they're already doing. So how do we get more out of students while maintaining our 8-hour day and not asking teachers to stay before and after school? So we're using systems that we already have in place with the learning, the Leopard time that we have is like a study hall where students have the option to go to various teachers to get help. We have homeroom, and so that is going to be our homerooms, or we're going to utilize specific lessons designed by a small group of teachers for teachers to implement in the classroom so that students can get this extra support and assistance to build this portfolio over the 4 years. So we're going to use an embedded model. So not only are we using Leopard Time, we're also using our English 1 and 2 courses, which all students are required to take. The English teachers have been phenomenal in helping us kind of overlap where their curriculum would help us reach some of these goals so that our students are getting more out of one item instead of having to do another task, add another task onto their plate. World Geography is also going to step in to reinforce some of these things with note-taking and formatting emails and things like that so that we can get the most out of the time that we already have with them.
And there will be a lot of teacher and student support, such as curriculum documents and lesson plans. We have, on the first slide, you saw the committee, but you also saw that there were a group of curriculum writers that are, we are going to be working this spring and summer to create all of the curriculum documents and lesson plans. And it is a teacher designed curriculum. So the teachers, every time I work with Mr. Mueller, he's like, well, let's think about this from a teacher's perspective so that so we can work through those different maybe roadblocks and things like that to make it as easy as possible on the teachers as well. And then we will have a targeted implementation training for teachers in the fall. And then we will also have specific timelines for students and parents and teachers so that they know that this month, this is the skill we're working on. This is the artifact that we may be producing, or this is what we are doing with our digital portfolio and things like that. So we will have a lot of teacher and student support.
So just where we are at this point, the high school has presented this to the staff, the committee did, and we are also exploring a platform for the digital portfolio that can follow students as they leave. So when they leave Lovejoy High School, they'll be able to maintain this digital portfolio for any college and career purposes, so that they'll have that as they move forward. So I just want to thank the committee. There's been a lot of meetings after school throughout the year. As Michelle mentioned, we did send out a survey to parents, staff, and students before we even started the work on the senior project revisions. So we wanted to ensure we got stakeholder input. So I think consistently the things that we were hearing were what concerns that Lovejoy 2030 had with the current model, and that we did too. So any questions?
So I've had 3 kids now complete this from 2020-ish. So we've been in that, what is this again? So I'm so happy to see all the work that y'all have put into making this so much more intentional. And I love the idea of it preparing them for college sooner. So it's something they can submit as an add value to who they are and what they've done. My question is choosing the topic. I know that's been a really complex area. Have you all solved or narrowed kind of options and what's approved and what's not approved and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So with embedding a lot of the research skills into those 9th and 10th grade English classes, what it does is kind of creates the framework for their actual project. And then we'll still work as educators, whether it's the administration still doing some sort of approval process. There will still be some level of oversight of what you're actually going to research and do. But back to that portfolio, which is really going to be kind of their learning journey and story of being a Lovejoy Leopard. In that, we're going to see something that relates to those research skills. So just like back to some of the things you see in our AP seminar and our AP research classes, sometimes the hardest thing to do as a writer is to pick a topic that you can actually research and expand on. So it's going to be a little bit more academic when you look at that research topic, but still go into student interest, and we're happy to help approve that. But hopefully it takes care of itself a little bit on the journey.
I had a question on the timeline. I know you mentioned that next year's kind of a hybrid year and then fully implemented for class 26. I see this, like Amy said, I've had one senior this year that's gone through the existing format, and I see this being a much better framework. For those that are, and for someone who's entering as a freshman next year, they've got this roadmap of this 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. I think we'll probably be getting a lot of questions from those people in the next 2 or 3 year cohorts of what does their 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th look like as they're transitioning from what the current system has been to what the new one is. So I'm sure there'll be additional details and communication of people that are specifically in those classes, but for like someone who's going to be entering in as a junior next year, they obviously missed the 9th and 10th piece. So how do those gaps get filled in? So that'll be a question I'm sure that comes up.
Absolutely. And to the committee, to the credit of the committee with all the work that they've done, I think even in our last meeting, we talked about having a simultaneous overlapping flow chart for the hybrid classes. We feel pretty good about the rising sophomores, but there'll be a couple tweaks with the rising juniors. And then really it's embedded holistically, if that makes sense, after that. But we will almost have like a side chart. Yes, sir.
That's great. That's my question too. And thank you for the work that's been done on this. I just echo the comments and appreciate the deliberate approach to creating something really meaningful for these kids as they leave Lovejoy. Any other questions? or
Thank you.
comments? Thank you. Item 8 is consider and possible action regarding the recommendation of the superintendent as presented to send notice of the proposed non-renewal of Cynthia Bronson, a term contract teacher pursuant to section 21.206 of the Texas Education Code and board policies, DFBB legal and DFBB local. Ms. Koenig.
Yes, as you recall back in February 25th, the board did approve a RIF, reduction in force, due to programmatic changes. And basically those changes were just going to impact central administration. We were hoping, and we think that we can do the work with your staff members and we have followed board policy DFBB local and could reallocate those funds, maximize the student experience. So I'm asking if you would please consider and possibly take action in recommendation of the superintendent as presented to send notice of the proposed non-renewal of Cynthia Bronson, a term contract teacher pursuant to section 21.206 of the Texas Education Code and board policies DFBB legal and DFBB local. Any questions?
I move that the board approve the recommendation of the superintendent as presented to send notice of the proposed non-renewal of Cynthia Bronson, a term contract teacher pursuant to section 21.206 of the Texas Education Code and board policies DFBB legal and DFBB local.
So moved by Amy, second Jason, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. No announcements today, so we would be adjourned.